They say that every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But for Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, the story didn't end when he finished his quest. It simply evolved into a survival horror movie. And last night, on a night that was supposed to be a celebration of technical wrestling, the horror became a reality. We aren't just talking about a scuffle. We aren't talking about a pull-apart brawl. We are talking about a systematic breakdown of security, logic, and the very health of two of the greatest athletes on the planet. Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu. The American Dream's son versus the Samoan Werewolf. Welcome to Wrestling Apocalypse. Today, we are dissecting the 25 minutes of pure, unadulterated carnage that occurred when these two men finally reached their breaking point. This is the massive brawl breakdown you've been waiting for. Let's set the stage. The tension has been building for months. Since Jacob Fatu arrived on the main roster, he hasn't just been a competitor, he's been a force of nature. He doesn't care about titles. He doesn't care about the work. He cares about the hunt. And for weeks, his prey has been the man who carries the banner of the WWE, Cody Rhodes. Cody, ever the fighting champion, ever the man of the people, has tried to handle Fatu with class. He's tried to handle him with athleticism. But as we learned last night, you don't fight a werewolf with a handshake. You fight him with everything you've got, and even then, it might not be enough. It started at 8:42 p.m., Cody was in the middle of a standard promo segment. He was talking about the burden of the crown, the weight of the legacy. He looked tired not physically, but spiritually. The bloodline has been a thorn in his side for years, and Jacob Fatu is the sharpest part of that thorn. Just as Cody uttered the words, "I am not afraid of the dark," the arena lights didn't just go out, they exploded. A literal pyrotechnic failure or a deliberate act of sabotage? We still don't know. But when the emergency lights, those haunting, dim red globes, kicked in, Jacob Fatu wasn't on the stage. He was already in the ring. He didn't have a microphone. He didn't have a plan. He just had a head of steam. He tackled Cody before the former champ could even drop his mic. The sound of the impact echoed through the rafters, a sickening thud of two human beings colliding at top speed. Narrator, the first 5 minutes were a blur of holy shhh moments. They didn't stay in the ring for more than 30 seconds. Fatu grabbed Cody by his bleach blonde hair and launched him over the top rope. Cody, showing that incredible instinct, landed on his feet on the apron and caught Fatu with a disaster kick that sent the werewolf stumbling back. But Fatu didn't fall. He never falls. He just leaned against the ropes, bared his teeth, and laughed. A cold, guttural laugh that silenced the front row. "You think you're a king," Fatu shouted, his voice caught on the ringside microphones. "You're just a meal." He charged again, and this time, the barricade didn't hold. They crashed through the mosh pit area of the floor seats. Fans were diving for cover as Cody and Fatu traded haymakers. This wasn't the 1-2 boxing style of Cody, this was a street fight. Cody grabbed a fan's discarded soda, a full one, and smashed it across Fatu's head. Sticky liquid and plastic flying everywhere. Did it stop Fatu? No. It just made him angrier. By the 10-minute mark, the apocalypse was in full swing. Adam Pearce sent out 12 security guards. 12. Usually, that's enough to stop a riot. Against these two? It was like trying to stop a flood with a paper towel. Fatu dispatched 4 of them with a single triple jump moonsault from the barricade. Yes, a man that size doing a triple jump, while Cody took the remaining 8 and used them as human shields to get some breathing room. But Cody isn't a coward. He saw Fatu standing among the wreckage of the security team, and he did something we haven't seen in years. He took off his belt. He wrapped it around his fist, a throwback to the gritty, territory days of his father, Dusty. He met Fatu in the aisle, and for 3 minutes, it was just the sound of leather hitting flesh. Fatu's chest was turning a deep, bruised purple. Cody's face was smeared with the blood of a cut over his eye. This is where the psychology gets interesting. Cody had the advantage. He had the weapon. He had the crowd. But Fatu has something Cody doesn't, a complete lack of self-preservation. Fatu grabbed the belt, pulled Cody into a headbutt that looked like it would crack a bowling ball, and then get this, he bit Cody's shoulder. The referee, who was bravely trying to keep some semblance of order, actually gagged. They fought into the backstage area. The camera followed them, shaking, capturing a cinematic war. They went through the catering area. Trays of food, tables, chairs, everything became a weapon. Cody shoved Fatu into a stack of production crates, and for a second, we thought it was over. But Fatu emerged like a monster in a slasher flick, his eyes wide and wild. He grabbed a literal television monitor and heaved it at Cody. Cody ducked, and the monitor shattered against a concrete wall, sparks flying. At the 15-minute mark, they were back in the arena, but they were high up. They had navigated their way through the tunnels and were now brawling in the upper mezzanine. The fans up there were getting the show of a lifetime. Cody hit a crossroads on the concrete floor of the concourse, a move that should end any match. But there was no referee to count. There were no rules. Fatu groaned, rolled over, and grabbed the leg of a heavy metal merchandise stand. He pulled the entire thing down on top of Cody. T-shirts, hats, and steel piping buried the American Nightmare. The silence that followed was heavy. The crowd started a Cody chant that was more of a prayer than a cheer. And then, from beneath the rubble, a hand emerged. Cody Rhodes, covered in dust and sweat, dragged himself out. He looked at Fatu, who was standing on the edge of the mezzanine, looking down at the ring 60 feet below. For a terrifying moment, we thought Fatu was going to jump. We thought we were about to witness a tragedy. But Cody caught him. He grabbed Fatu from behind and they both went tumbling down a flight of stairs, bouncing off the concrete, hitting the railings. It was the kind of stunt that makes your insurance premium triple just by watching it. They landed at the bottom, a heap of elite-level athletes turned into broken dolls. The final 5 minutes were the most emotional. They crawled back toward the ring. They couldn't walk. They were using the railings, the fans, and each other to stay upright. They reached the ringside area, and the crowd was on their feet, a standing ovation for a fight that hadn't even been a match. Cody rolled Fatu into the ring. He wanted to finish it properly. He wanted to show that he was the better man. He stood in the corner, waiting for Fatu to rise. He was setting up for the bionic elbow. The ghost of Dusty was in the room. Fatu rose, staggering, his face a mask of blood and war paint. Cody charged. He hit the elbow. 1, 2, 3. But as Cody went for the final blow, the lights didn't flicker this time. They went blood red and stayed there. A siren blared the signal for the rest of the bloodline. But they didn't come from the ramp. They came from under the ring. Solo Sikoa and the Tongans. It was an ambush. Cody fought them off for a moment. He's the Nightmare, after all. He's used to the odds being against him. But when you've just spent 20 minutes brawling with a werewolf, you don't have anything left for the pack. They swarmed him. But just as Solo was about to deliver the Samoan spike, something happened that no one predicted. Jacob Fatu stood up. He didn't join the attack. He pushed Solo Sikoa away. Narrator: the look on Solo's face was pure confusion. The look on Fatu's face? It was respect. He had just been through hell with Cody Rhodes, and he didn't want the family to ruin his kill. Fatu and Solo started arguing in the middle of the ring. A fracture in the bloodline. A crack in the foundation of the most dominant faction in history. Narrator: Cody, seeing his opening, rolled out of the ring, disappearing into the crowd as the bloodline began to fight amongst themselves. The show ended with Cody Rhodes standing at the very top of the arena, looking down at the chaos he had survived. He didn't look like a winner. He looked like a man who had stared into the abyss and realized the abyss was staring back. Narrator: this brawl didn't just move the needle, it broke the speedometer. We are looking at a three-way civil war. Cody Rhodes on one side, Jacob Fatu on another, and Solo Sikoa's version of the bloodline on the third. Where does it end? WrestleMania? A Hell in a Cell match that might actually require a priest instead of a referee? The consequences are massive. Cody is injured. Fatu is rogue. Solo is losing control. This is the wrestling apocalypse we warned you about. The landscape has been leveled, and only the strongest will be left to rebuild it. I want to hear from you. Was Jacob Fatu right to push Solo away? Is the werewolf starting to respect the Nightmare? And who is the real tribal chief of this chaos? Get down in those comments and let's start the debate. This is the kind of story that reminds us why we love this business. It's unpredictable, it's violent, and it's deeply, deeply personal. Narrator: if you want more deep dives into the carnage, if you want to know what happened backstage after the cameras stopped rolling, you know what to do. Hit that like button like Cody hits a crossroads. Subscribe to Wrestling Apocalypse and join the army. We are the only ones brave enough to talk about what's really going on behind the curtain. Stay tuned, stay loud, and remember, in the apocalypse, only the Nightmare survives.